Oh, hello there. So what we're going to do today is make a headband in my twisted ripple stitch. And if you'd like, you can make a scarf or anything in a flat panel in it, purse, blanket, cowl that you're going to stitch together from a flat panel, basically anything that you want to make that way with it. I'm going to make a headband because I am releasing a lot of stitches and I want to make short projects, and headbands are great because I make them headband, ear warmer, combination neck warmer, and they're going to be really great for Christmas gifts this year. So I thought, you know what, I don't have hardly any headbands on my channel, so let's do some fast projects with these stitches and get some headbands. And that way I've worked out how to do the edges and everything, so you can make any kind of a flat panel. And if you don't want to figure out how to do these things, you'd rather just follow a pattern, then I have worked out how to do the edges, and all you'd have to do is add more stitches to do the project that you want. And so how I set up this loom is I'm going to use 2 end pegs because I want to make sure there's no curl to it. I'm not using any purls, and I've set up 2 end pegs there, and I'm going to do an owl eye type of end. And then the stitch will be on here, and this will be the size that I want for my headband. I've used 11 pegs, but you can use anything. The stitch is done on 1 peg, just a 1 peg stitch. So you can do it on the flat panel, you can do it in the round, and you can use even or odd, it doesn't matter. I just wanted to get my finished width to be around here to here, so that's why I have this many pegs. And the yarn that I'm going to use, it's a bulky yarn. It is King Cole Riot Chunky. It is a roving yarn. It's about the same width as Scarfy, and a lot like Scarfy in that it goes thinner and thicker, but it's a stronger yarn than Scarfy. It doesn't break as easy, and it comes in a nice palette of different colors that change colors. I like Scarfy too because it gives you such nice two-tone patterns, 2 different colors. I like that too, but I like all these colors, and I like the strength of this yarn, so I can use all kinds of techniques that are hard on yarn on it. Okay, so it's made out of 30% wool, 70% acrylic, and I have 145 yards, 100 grams, and it's made in the UK. And it's a, very similar to Scarfy. It's a thinner bulky. Okay, so I'll get to the start of this. Oh, and the loom I'm using, this is a 5/8 inch gauge, and this is a nifty knitter loom. It's the Purl 5/8 inch 48 peg loom. They don't make it anymore, so if you wanted to get this loom, you can get Cindy Wood. Has lots of 5/8 inch looms, and they actually have a Purl replacement loom also in purple, but they have a lot of 5/8 inch gauge looms you can get in all kinds of colors and sizes. And KB looms, their chunky loom set is in the 5/8 inch gauge, but this can be done on any gauge. It will be either more lacy or a thicker pattern. It will always have lots of texture no matter what yarn you use and no matter what gauge you use. Okay, so I'm going to start out by making a slip knot and put the working yarn through it and just do that and put it on the first peg, and then I'm ready to go. Got my loom hook here, and I'm just going to take my loom hook, go in the top of the loop and pull the working yarn through to get a loop, and I'm going to hold this tight here so it doesn't loosen up. Go behind the second peg here, take the working yarn, put it through the loop, and tighten. Around the next peg, working yarn through, and tighten. And that's all I'm doing to cast on. It's a crochet chain cast on done without a crochet hook. and tighten. And then I'm just going to knit this over. So I just put the final loop over the end peg. I'm just going to knit it over to secure it, and we're cast it on. And then I want to make sure that this stitch never curls at the bottom or goes up. So I'm just going to do 2 rows of owl eye stitch. So my end peg I just go over, and then this peg I go over in a U-wrap 2, and then I'm going to start. We're on peg 1. We wrap peg 1 and 2, knit them over. This is owl eye stitch. On peg 1, we go over peg 1 and 2, knit it over. Lots of videos if you want to see more of the owl eye stitch on my channel. We're on peg 1, we go over peg 1 and 2, knit it off, and we keep the stitches nice and loose because it actually naturally is going to tighten up, so I'm keeping it loose as we're going over. Like this. And then all the way to the end, and then how I'm doing my ends here is I'm always going to come over, wrap it again. I'm always going to do owl eye like this on the peg. Then here I am, I'm going to go back over these pegs, and then I'm always going to come over like this on the end peg. But in this case we're going to keep going because we're doing owl eye all the way along to get a good start. Up here it's a little bit loud there. She heard a noise outside. And it could be my next door neighbors, and she recognizes them. Okay. And we just go all the way to the end. And then we're ready to start the stitch. Okay, so to start we're going to do our 2 end pegs. So we're going to go over them and knit them off, and then we're going to take the working yarn and go over one more time, and that's our end pegs. And then we're going to start to do the stitch, and this stitch is twisted ripple. And I'm just going to pause for just a second before we start to do the stitch and make sure that maybe give my parrots a treat so they quiet down. Okay, in theory we'll have happier, quieter parrots. Anyway, we're going to do a U-wrap over the peg to start the stitch. So we do a U-wrap, then we come back around to the front, wrap over it again. That's how you do the owl eye on one peg. Knit it off, and we're still not done with this stitch. We're going to come back around a 3rd time and put the loop over the peg, and this time we're going to do the purl over stitch. It's named by Theresa Higby, who created the stitch. She gave me permission to use her stitch in my videos. It's not a purl. If we had a purl, our working yarn would be down here, but it's not. It's up here. So it's like doing a knit, a traditional knit, but we don't knit it over. So put your hook under the loop, go over the loop on the top, and pull out a new loop here. And then we don't take it off the peg, we just flip it back over like that and tighten it. That's all there is to doing the purl over stitch, and that is the 3rd stitch, or the 3rd movement that we do on this peg. Then we go over to the next peg, do our U-wrap, and then we take this working yarn, come back around, wrap it again, come back around again, working yarn at the working yarn, loom hook, take the bottom loop, go over the working yarn, pull up a loop, and over, and to snug it up. And you don't want to get it too tight, just snug it up so you can get the loom hook in it, so you can easily knit it over when you do your next round. So you don't want them to get too tight, but you don't want them to be too loose either. So U-wrap, working yarn here, come behind and go over it again. This is how I do the owl eye on one peg when I'm just doing one peg or at a starting peg to do the owl eye stitch. And then you just knit it over, come around again. So you're just going to keep wrapping around the same way. Go under, over, make your new loop, and I just flip it over with the loom hook and tighten it. This yarn wants to pop back for some reason. So knit the next one, come around again, knit it off, come around again, go under, over, and here's how I usually do my purls. I hold the back yarn so I can control it when I pull out the loop, so the loop isn't pulled out too far, and I just slip it over. Except this is really curled up for some reason. Doesn't want to slip over real easy, but that's how I usually do it. So I just come around, just show you how fast the stitch is. You just go around, come up, do the purl over, go over, next stitch, go wrap, wrap, wrap. It's a long stitch, so you've actually done quite a bit by going over and doing these, right? We just started, and you see how far we are? So it goes pretty quick, and can't see too much yet. We're just seeing the owl eye at the border, and the stitch is up here, but we're starting to get our stitch. So get it close, go slowly here so you can see, and we're just going over in a U-wrap on the peg, knitting it over, coming around, going over in front of it again, knitting it over, coming around for the third time, coming under the bottom loop, over the top, and just flipping that over like that. We never take anything off. So it's a lot easier than doing a purl. And then we're at our end pegs, so we come over and we do the U-wrap over this peg, we come around to do it again, and the next peg. So we're doing owl eye going this way, and then we come back, go over. This is what I call my owl eye corner, and then I do my second wrap on this peg, and that'll give me a nice edge that won't curl. There we go. All right, so now we're going this way. We do the U-wrap this way, knit over, U-wrap, knit over, wrap it again, working the loom hook under the bottom, over the working yarn, pull up the loop and put it over. Okay, and if you have a hard time doing the way I just showed you that I do it usually, and I'm doing it with a roving, which is the harder place to do it, you can just go under, pull it out. You got a long loop here, make sure it's straight, flip it over, and then tighten it. You can do that with any yarn. So over, over again, around and over, and do the purl over, and that's it. That's how you do the twisted ripple stitch. I have to look up my note. I've been doing so many videos with all different stitches I named that it's hard for me to remember which one got which name. I have my note because it would be a lot of editing and a lot of fiddling around if I said the wrong name. So I'm just going to do a couple more for you, and then we can undo the edge again. I want to make sure that you see what I'm doing here. So I'm just going to knit it, and there is a little gear at the bottom right of your video. If you click on it, it will slow down the video so you can watch me do it slower. I'm just going to do these and you can watch. So I'm just doing this, and as you're seeing, each peg is getting 3 different stitches on it, so it's 3 times longer than most stitches. That's why I have done the kind of edge that I've done, because you want to get an edge that works with it. And then I come over here and do my U-wrap, and I'm just doing this. I'm just doing the owl eye stitch on the end, like this, going over the second peg. Then I'm turning around, coming back, so I'm going over this one, and then re-wrapping the second peg like that. And I'm ready to go and start my stitch again. So I'm just going to work ahead so you can see the stitch. I can show it to you a bit. I'll have to pull it out here so you can see. Okay, so here it is, and the owl eye is right here, and then right here is the twisted ripple at the top. So it's a really twisted ripply stitch. That's how it got its name. It has a lot of texture to it. I'll turn it so you can see the texture. I have a stitch video of this that I'm going to release, and I will be comparing how it looks in this yarn to a thicker yarn I did a swatch on, so you can see what it looks like in different yarns. Okay, so I'm just going to knit ahead for a little ways, and then we will take a look at it, and we'll see how it looks. Okay, so here I am, and you can see what it looks like. So it looks like this in the thinner bulky, and of course it'll be a little tighter as I get further away from the loom and look more like this. And it's a very, very textured stitch. I'm gonna let you see how it looks. Got a lot of texture here. And a close-up of it is it. And then the back of it is pretty cool looking too. This is what it looks like on the back. So some people might like the back better and want to use that for the front. I'll pull it a little bit so you can see it. So as I said, you can get more lacy and you'll end up with a stitch like this. Looks really good, more lacy too. You get this kind of a look, and if you're using a more bulky yarn than this, you'll get a stitch that looks more like this. So I'm going to keep going for a while, and then we'll catch up and see how we're looking. And I might go quite a bit further and get to the point where we bind off. You're going to want to do the length of the size you want if you're doing the headband with me, and I know my head length. So you just measure where a headband would fit on your head or your ear warmer would fit, and that will give you an indication of how long you want it to be. And this style of headband is really good because you only have like 11 pegs here, so you can easily take them off with stitch markers or with a lifeline, and then try it on when you think you're done. And if you think it's too big, then you can actually take a row out very carefully, taking out your stitch markers, going along, putting them back in, or taking out your lifeline and using a needle with more thread for a lifeline and just putting it in to save each peg when you get down to the length you want. Or you can put it back on the loom because you've got the stitches saved and put another row or two if it feels too tight. So it's really easy to adjust headbands that are done this way on the loom. But anyway, I will work up further and check in with you, and we will see where we're at. Okay, so here I am, and my twisted ripple headband is now the length I want. I did it 17 inches, so I've just measured it, and I measured right from the bottom of the peg down to the bottom, and I got 17 inches. You might want to do 17 and a half or more. It all depends on your head size. I have a small head, but I do like them to not be too tight, and so this will work for me. So now that I've got the length I want, I need to attach my two ends, and I'm going to do this one right on the loom. But what we need to do is attach it on the wrong side, so we don't have a visible attachment on the right side. So I've cut a length of a contrasting yarn, and then I'm just going to make sure that stays tight there, and I'm just going to pull it up and secure all these loops. And with these loops secured also, once you take it off the loom, you can actually see if you've got the right length. You can attach them with a safety pin or a stitch marker in a couple places and try it on and see if it fits. And if not, you can just put it back on the loom, because these will be secured. You can put them back on, and you can actually carefully take off a row or two to have less, or if it wasn't big enough, you can add a few rows. So that's one nice thing about doing it as a flat panel, is you can adjust it if it isn't the right size. So I'm just going to get it all secured. And then, just to be sure that it doesn't accidentally come undone, I'm just going to tie a little loose knot on it, and make sure this stays nice and tight. And then you can actually just take it right off the loom. The stitches are held. You can also take it off with stitch markers. I often do that, but if you don't, just a contrasting piece of yarn holds them all quite well. And then you can just try it and see if it's the right size for you, which I'm not going to do because I know that this is the right size for me. And so now we want to attach it. So we want the wrong side facing us, and we're going to put our cast on edge on. Now you should have 11 stitches just like we cast on here, but if for some reason you can't find all 11, that's fine. We can make that work. All you would do if you had less is when you put the other one on, you would just put 2 loops on a couple pegs from this other side. But do your best to try to find all the loops. You'll have one that's really close to the knot that looks almost like it's on the side. And here we're going to have the wrong side facing us. This is the right side that's on here. And then you just pop them on. And you'll have two loops that you're popping on, and you want them both on, because if you only put one on, it will show, and you don't want anything to show on your good side. Right on your good side here, because this is your wrong side. It's really nice too. The wrong side looks good. Okay. So 2 loops, 2 loops, 2 loops, 2 loops. So I'm just putting the 2 loops that were the cast on edge on. So on this side, you see there's just the 2 loops cast on edge. And then the last one is going to look like it's almost a side stitch. And there we go. Get them all on. And then we can come up. These are all held. And then you're just carefully going to put each loop, and you see them all, they're all held right here. Here's one here, one here, one here, one here, and you're just going to put them all back on and put them directly on top, and make sure you put them all on the right way, and take a look at it, which way is the right way, and put them all on. And you just take your time. I find with the stitch mark you can just pull it on, it's a lot easier, but this works fine too. And there's only one loop, because we took the live loops and put them through. We didn't bind it off. I just make it less bulky. And then I'm just going to find where my loom hook's gone. I'm going to take that out later. And I'm keeping this tight again. And then we're just going to knit the green loops over, the two loops over the one that we had here, and then we only have one loop on here, and we have both sides attached. And somehow I got two loops on here. Let's see what I did. Oh, yeah. I accidentally put an extra bit there that shouldn't be there. And we're just going to knit these over. And then once we knit them over, you can do any bind off you like. You can do the basic bind off if you can do it nice and loose, because you want this to be stretchy still. Or you can do a stretchy bind off. And got a little bit of mess here. There we go. And so I'm just going to cut a piece. So just get my scissors and cut a piece here so that I can use it to bind this off. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to do a stretchy bind off. Okay, so we'll do that, and you can do any bind off you want. It's completely up to you. So I need to get a needle. So I will just put you on pause while I look for my needle. Okay, got my needle. You're welcome to do it with your loom hook too. I like to use a needle. I find the needle a lot easier. Okay, now we're going to go down the number 2 peg. So we go into the yarn that's here, and we're going to go down. There we go. And make sure it's nice and snug. And then we're going to go up the first peg. Okay, we're going to go behind the second peg, down the third peg, and then up the second peg, and snug it up. And we're going to go behind the third peg and go down the fourth peg and up the third peg. Okay, so another way to explain it is, we just went up this peg, we're going to go behind the peg we had done before, down the new peg, up the old peg, tighten it, go behind, down the new peg, and then up the old peg, and then behind, tightening it up, down the new peg, up the old peg, tightening it up, going behind, down the new peg, up the old peg, going behind, down the new peg, up the old peg, going behind, down the new peg, up the old peg, going behind, down the new peg, up the old peg, and then we can just go either up or down this old peg, and then we can take it off the loom. There we go. And then we're just going to put a knot in here to secure it. And we're all attached. And we can take this out. And there we go. It's all attached together. And there's your headband, and it has stretch. And of course, because the colors change so abruptly, I will probably keep that in the back and have this at the front, but that would be fine. It just looks like a color change. And then all we have to do on this side is weave in the end, and we're all done. So it's going to find a place to weave it, and just weave it a bit. Has a knot in it, so it's secured, and we just want to keep it a little more secured, and I might as well just go through this end because it'll be invisible for sure. And I'm just going to do it one more time and call it secured. And then just cut it off. And then we have this little green one here. That was the end. And I'm just going to weave that one in. So I'm just going to put that my needle through there. I'm sorry my air conditioner's a little loud, but it's really, really hot here today, and I couldn't couldn't survive without my air conditioner on. And just weave this end in. And then just cut that one, and there we go. There's our headband. So there's what your stitch looks like. It's a really, really pretty stitch. I think it shows up better on the pink. It's really pretty, has a lot of texture to it. And that's all there is to it. And if you look at it the other way, it looks like this. So it's quite a pretty stitch. So it's a really nice stitch. You'll have a bit of a jog if you do it in the round. because one of your stitches is longer than the others, but it'll just be a bit of a jog because the stitch is similar. And in a flat panel it looks like this. So okay, I hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, bye.